could eat a page for hours. Please. Kiss me.
Greetings and salutations. This is Cage's Kiss, the ultimate Cage cast. We'll discuss each of the National Treasure's cinematic masterpieces and his life. We also try to glean whatever kernels of wisdom that we can from his character that week. I'm Cindy Lou Who, or Adrian. And...
I'm Linda Castro, but this week you can call me some sort of a Christmas cheese. I don't know, cheese log.
Ew.
And I'm Alfie, the most annoying thing to come out of Dana Carvey's asshole in this whole fucking movie. So I'm going to talk like this the whole time.
Well, Dahu Doristane. This is the story of Nicolas Cage and how his heart was 2 sizes too small. But then he came to a crappy small town in Pennsylvania, and it grew 3 sizes that day. For it's 1994, and we happen to be discussing Trapped in Paradise, a movie that I thought I'd seen, but it was some other movie that I didn't really remember or made up in my head.
That's the perfect description for this movie.
That's about what happened.
This week's movie, it's a Christmas movie.
Christmas!
So, it takes place in Paradise, Pennsylvania, but it's shot in Canada. There is a real town called Paradise, Pennsylvania. Its population is a little over 1,000, 98% of whom are white. It's in Lancaster County, and it's a quarry town.
It's a quarry.
That's right, it's a quarry. But, it's on a list of Pennsylvania's most delightfully named towns, like Bluebell. Now, I don't know if the real town looks like the one in the movie. The one in the movie actually reminds me of Old Saybrook, Connecticut. Because, I feel like they were trying to go for, this kind of, charming, sort of New Englandish kind of thing, but it's Pennsylvania, it's isn't that kind of steel towns and wanting to kill yourself and Appalachians and...
Yeah.
I knew a guy in college, my roommate, my freshman year in college was from Pennsylvania, and he just made it sound like it was, the most depressing, nightmare of, Victor Hugo or John Steinbeck combined.
They got that Hershey Factory up there, I hear.
Yeah, they got that there.
Yeah.
I hear nobody goes up that road no more.
Oh, no, not ever since the Evers boy.
Oh, that's right. Oh.
No.
The chocolate of a man's heart is crunchier.
Can't we just review that movie?
I wanted to.
No, Linda, we can't do that because we're in Whoville. How do you like my Boris Karloff?
So I guess we should just.
So let me talk about so we were in Cage's Sunshine trilogy before. We're out of that now, and so we've also briefly departed. We've read it's a little bit in Cage's granny territory here again, but we're outside of box office success. I could not find a site that would report this movie's budget, but it only brought in $6 million at the box office.
Right.
And I actually researched this a little bit. So this opened on the weekend of December 2nd, 1994. It opened at number 7. So one way or another, it was sucking some shit, right?
Yeah.
And here's what it opened behind. It opened number 1 was Tim Allen, the Santa Claus. Number 2 was Star Trek Generations. Yeah. Number 3 was Junior.
Junior.
So none of those are good, by the way. Number 4 was Interview with the Vampire.
Oh, hey now.
Wow.
After that is
That's
Low
a sexy
Down
movie.
Dirty Shame. Then The Lion King.
Wow.
Now,
I can't wait to be
none
king.
of these movies were in their opening weekend either. These were all second,
Ooh.
fourth week things. These were all pretty far down. In fact, only there were 2 other movies that opened that week, and for the movies that opened that week, Trapped in Paradise did beat the other 2 because the other ones were Cobb, where Tommy Lee Jones plays Ty Cobb, and something called Tom and Viv, which I've seen on shelves but never had any interest in, just because that title is just such a turnoff. But yeah, no, this thing was a militantly shit-sucking box office catastrophe. It's rated.
I wonder why.
It's not. Well, it's not good. It's not good. It's rated very low on Rotten Tomatoes. A lot of critics pretty universally reviled it, and it makes sense. But what I don't understand is why all the hate that belongs so squarely to so many of the other Cage movies we've seen went to this movie. These
Maybe
critics
people
were fucking.
just said this far no further.
They were sucking the fucking cock of goddamn Honeymoon in Vegas, and fucking it could happen to you. And for some reason, this is the one that's not good enough.
What is wrong with this
what
country?
the fuck?
Well, and the director-writer George
Yeah,
Gallo
yeah.
apparently, blamed the actors on the failure.
Okay.
Well, I do want to blame Dana Carvey.
Fuck George. No. I like what Dana Carvey was doing because he based his entire performance on young Mickey Rourke.
Yeah.
And so he's got all that facial mugging that Mickey Rourke would do. You know, he's like, "Hey, my name's Alvin Furpo, and I just figured out that all that Robin kind of bullshit, it's not that great, maybe."
I just wonder if him and Cage actually came to fisticuffs on set. Like maybe Cage felt like he was trying to shade him. It's like, are you mocking my acting style?
That's what's good about this week's movie, by the way, as opposed to last week's movie, is that we have Cage caging. We have him caging all kinds, and that's probably because George Gallo is not a director. He's a chunk of shit, by the way. This is not taking anything away from Cage, but nobody told the actors what to do. It's just like, just do whatever you want. So Cage is like, Key!
Although we get that frightening line of "Call me Dad."
Yeah. What are you, 2 years old? Yeah. So, but let me talk about Mr. Gallo while we brought that fucker up. Okay.
Yes.
This is his second movie. Yes, he had more than one somehow. His first movie was something called 29th Street that I think had Danny Aiello. And I have actually seen like the first 15 to 20 minutes of it, and fuck that movie. That's all I'm going to say. And he didn't direct another movie again after this until 2001 when he did Double Take with Eddie Griffin and Orlando Jones.
Jesus.
Yeah, remember that shit? Nobody does, but it happened.
No.
So he's directed movies since then, but it's shit that you would never even want to see. Okay, here's some titles. Just give me your honest reactions here.
Lay it on me.
Local Color.
Nope.
Yeah, it really gets your dick hard, don't it? Columbus Circle.
I prefer Columbo.
And Mom's New Boyfriend.
Is that on Cinemax?
That one had Antonio Banderas. I saw none of those. Now, like some of our other guys, George Gallo is actually more of a writer than a director. He was a writer on Michael Bay's Bad Boys.
Yeah.
With the Martin Lawrence. And he wrote the original Midnight Run with Charles Grodin and Robert De Niro.
And fun little story, Bad Boys was actually supposed to star Dana Carvey and Jon Lovitz, but the script was such shit.
Huh.
Yeah, believe it or not. And the script was such shit, and they had to keep rewriting it, and in fact, Jon Lovitz just got to the point where he's like, no, I can't do this shit. And Disney pulled out because they were like, no, we can't do this shit. So then you got somebody eventually put out a decent script, and we get the beautiful classic movie we have today of Bad Boys.
And Michael Bay said, I never pull out.
Ew. Wherever you are, Michael Bay, fuck you.
Is he Mom's New Boyfriend?
I've got some Cuervo here. I'm just going to get started on this because the movie's on in the background.
Please.
Wise choice. I suppose we should give a recap of the movie.
Does it need it?
I'll give you a
recap,
motherfucker. So once upon a time in the magical city of New York, which may look a little bit like Quebec sometimes, who knows?
Yeah.
There was a magical restaurateur, head waiter, manager type guy, played by Nicolas Cage. He finds a wallet in the subway and contemplates taking $800 out of it. I mean, who wouldn't take $800 out of it? It's frickin' free money, god damn it.
Yeah, it's street cash.
But he
It's your
finds a
money.
picture of 2 cats in the wallet and some kids and says, oh shit, I can't do that. And they're really cute cats.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
They're all cross-eyed, being like, "Meow." So he goes to confessional and says, well, shit, I nearly stole this wallet, but I popped it in the mail and didn't. I think I'm as bad as my 2 brothers who are in jail. And the priest says, no fuck, by the way, they're getting out. And Cage is like, no way, man, it's too soon. And the priest is like, no lie, man, just fact. Look in the newspaper, the prisons are crowded and shit. And so his brothers,
Go with God.
Dana Carvey and Jon Lovitz, tell a story about a pterodactyl and get out of jail. Then they try to get Cage to take them to Pennsylvania to see one of their old Selmite's daughters who won't visit him. Only Cage won't go because he's their dad now, even though he's their brother.
Did you say a cellmate or sodomite?
Yes,
Either
it's
works.
prison. It's the same thing.
Okay, fair enough.
Bomb
While
chicka
in
bomb
Rome.
bomb. The cops are coming to Cage's restaurant, and Jon Lovitz is like, they found your wallet in the Bronx at a crime scene, so they get whisked away to Pennsylvania in a small town called Paradise, where they nearly run over a cop on a horse who's differently abled. The chick that they're looking for named Sarah. There's only one Sarah in town, by the way, even though her last name is different. Turns out she works at this really crummy bank where there's a 90-year-old security guard who's always asleep and a security camera that's not plugged in. And Cage's temptation for larceny has grown too great, and so they get a bunch of guns out of the trunk and go to rob it. But then there's complications. They can't leave town. It's really snowy. Cage feels bad, and there's some like kind of tacked on romance side plot and some small town shit. And okay, so like basically everything after the robbery is tacked on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is shot in Canada, like I said. You're never in New York, you're never in New Jersey, you're never in Pennsylvania, you're in fucking Canada. And the filmmakers decided that even though it's Canada and it's pretty snowy, it wasn't snowy enough. So this movie uses 75,000 pounds of potato flakes to represent snow. And, it looks like snow. It's fine, Like I said, Dana Carvey, Dana fucking Carvey, everybody. This guy was a star on Saturday Night Live, and he kind of got short-ended by his movie career. He was born in 1955. He was a very well-regarded Saturday Night Live cast member from 1986 to 1993. He won Emmys for it. In 1994, he did 3 movies. So there's this one, which is obviously not that good. There's Road to Wellville, which is not that good.
Oh,
yeah, with the Matthew Broderick and the Anthony Hopkins. Yeah,
and Bridget Fonda again.
Anthony
Mr.
Hopkins
Pfister.
doing a really nice out there performance. By the way, Road to Wellville, which is from the director of Birdie. That year he also did Clean Slate, which I really enjoyed, but people are like,
Blank Slate.
Clean Slate. Clean Slate.
Oh.
It's the one where he's the private detective who loses his memory every time he goes to sleep. And people,
but even he says it was shit. He was surprised that it was released.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't think it was that bad. But where critics compared to the Groundhog Day, which I think is unfair. But but the sad thing is that in starring roles, Dana Carvey's only successful movie was actually Master of Disguise. That PG-rated piece of shit where he plays Pistachio Disguisio. Yeah, that fucking thing. That made a fuckload of money. God knows why. Because there's no fucking justice. That's why.
But he was also Garth in Wayne's World.
Yeah, yes, and Wayne's World too. Yeah. Did you know that when they started doing the Wayne's World sketch on Saturday Night Live, Mike Myers initially did not want Dana Carvey to be a part of it because he thought he'd be overshadowed?
No,
I believe it.
Because Dana
awesome.
Carvey was more established on the show at that point and was more of a star,
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, speaking of Mike Myers, this is like Table Flip the movie.
Oh God!
Because there are 2 different scenes where people randomly flip tables when they're all pissed.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So in this movie, we get Donald Moffat, who plays the bank manager Clifford Anderson. You may know him for John Carpenter's version of The Thing. He was also in Troma's Monster in the Closet, which is beautiful. He was on the Logan's Run TV series as the android dude. He was in Robert Altman's Popeye. And he was the fucking president of the United States in Clear and Present Danger, also in 1994.
This is true.
How dare you, sir?
How dare you?
Oh, that sounds familiar.
Yeah. Do you guys remember when the president left a message for us?
Oh boy, the president!
It was a message for Cage that he left through us.
Linda pointed out to me this week that Mädchen Amick is in this from Twin Peaks.
Yes.
And the movie she did after this was something called French Exit. What the fuck does that mean? I don't know.
Donnie, get Lucille.
That is.
I am not getting a French perspective on
You
this.
have to ask if that's the butthole.
I will at the end of the episode when we get to the end.
Foutoir, Mickey Rock.
Uh-oh.
You want that French perspective? The Jerry Lewis? I'm still drinking, by the way.
Oh, good.
I'm drinking for both of you. You need it.
I appreciate it.
We also have another well-known character actor in here. We've got Richard Jenkins as the FBI dude. He was in a fuckload of things. You've seen him in just about everything. He played the evil lawyer there in It Could Happen to You. He was in Step Brothers. You know, those breasts.
Yeah.
And unfortunately,
he was in 6 Feet Under too.
His film debut was in Silverado.
Oh.
Yeah, that was pretty undistinguished beginning there.
We should also make mention to Florence Stanley, who also played the grandma on the Dinosaurs TV show, as well as other movies.
Yeah. Yes. Are we sleeping together? I think not. It's Mrs. Furpo, goddammit. Beautiful dreamer, wake unto me.
I was thinking it was I was thinking about the episode of Dinosaurs where you get to a certain age and they hurl you off the cliff.
Yes, you do.
That show.
Our movie's music was composed by Robert Folk, who did the theme to Police Academy. In fact, he scored all the Police Academy movies, from what I could tell. He scored Bachelor Party.
Oh, shit.
Boat Trip.
This is going to tie in well with Face Off.
And Lawnmower Man 2, Beyond Cyberspace.
Oh, shit.
Wow.
Cinematography was by Jack N. Green, who was a regular for Clint Eastwood. He shot Unforgiven, among other things. He shot Uncommon Valor for Ted Kotcheff with the frickin' Gene Hackman. And he also shot the Nicolas Cage version of Left Behind. Is it the worst Cage movie? It might be. I don't know. Oh! I think my free rental just ran out here.
Huzzah!
Okay, so I either need to pay $4 or not keep watching. I'm gonna opt not to keep watching because I'm pretty much done with Transit Paradise. Viewers at home, you can rent this movie for just $4 on Amazon Prime, but just don't do that.
That's still too much.
Yeah, I think I'd like my $4 back, maybe with change.
Even when I rent movies, I always go for the standard definition because there's no way anyone should pay $4 for any of these movies, but especially that movie. It's maybe $1.25.
I feel like on this movie, honestly, I was fairly on board with it until after the robbery, because before then you don't really have the sap. And,
that's if we're gonna start getting to the film.
Also, this is really fucking long for a Cage movie, by the way. Most of the Cage movies we've been watching have been dutifully within the 90-minute range, somewhere between like 89 and 99 minutes. You know, and this one's a fucking hour and 51 minutes. This is a goddamn epic.
Like 2.5 hours.
This is like the Cotton Club all over again.
Exactly,
you know, and that's because George Gallo's a fucking spaz. Edit, fucking sack of shit! Like they're in a boat.
Part of
the
problem I had with this, like this movie, just it had nothing going for it. It's like the first half was pretty interesting because you're establishing that Nic Cage has morals. He's trying to prove he's better than his cheap-ass brothers. Wouldn't that have been interesting
if any of that had been
window?
He has a fucking nice paying job. It looks like, but then as soon as they go to that town,
he has this weird compulsion, you know, for what at least what he considers to be larceny. And there's the wallet theme. They start out with that wallet theme, where he thinks that by not returning the wallet or by delaying returning the wallet, he fucked his karma. Right?
And he has a really
and when he loses his wallet, he almost doesn't react to it. I'm like, I thought you set something up with the wallet. What the fuck?
Yeah. And that's just it. It's like as soon as they get to the bank and they start looking at it, he knows they're there to case this place. But he's the one that does all of it for them. And the moment he hears how much money is coming into the bank, he has a fucking orgasm.
All of a sudden,
and then he's like, fuck yeah, we're going to rob this place.
Feels like it's destiny or some shit. And it's like, so like, do his brothers know that he has this weird element inside of his character to be like them, to be a petty thief? Because Jon Lovitz is a compulsive liar, and Dana Carvey is a kleptomaniac. He's like, you know, humorously stealing cereal and like money from tills and like Christmas ornaments off of trees.
Yeah, freaking Lucille was like, he looked like he had things set up for himself. Why is he just going ape shit all of a sudden over this fucking
they
money.
could have made a whole like nature versus nurture kind of a theme. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they got their mother in there who's a fucking laugh riot. It's like, I miss all the creature comforts we used to have. And Cage is like, I bet the original owners liked them even better. Are you saying all that stuff was stolen? They didn't have a shred of evidence except our fingerprints.
Well, and
that scene, they have a really adorable cat on the couch in the background.
Oh.
That's true. Yes, Linda?
But I have to agree with what you're saying about everything feeling tacked on, especially the romance, because there at one point,
Sarah upstairs.
Yes, he's had like 4
what the hell
or 5
is that?
lines with her, and then he tries to kiss her, and she says, "What are you doing?" And he says, "I don't know."
What is he doing? They don't.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking.
This is
what
the same problem we hear with It Could Happen to You. By the way, it's like we've ever talked before. Who are you all of a sudden?
Well, I mean, at least this was worse than that, because the first time he sees her, he immediately puts on creeper eyes, where it's like, I'm fucking you with my eyes.
It's like, are you married? It's like, why are you proposing? Yes.
Yeah.
Also, we get really unhinged Cage. If you want unhinged Cage, this is the thing to see. I mean, like, this is like this is like some fucking Deadfall, fucking Vampire's Kiss, just like off the rails Cage. Like, isn't life great?
It's due to the lack of direction that they received from George Gallo.
So you get but really that results in the only good thing about the movie is that Dana Carvey, Jon Lovitz, and Cage just kind of go for it. And they're doing their best, and Linda, you were gonna talk about Jon Lovitz, what Jon Lovitz said about the movie. I'm assuming it's the same thing I read about the movie, is that George Gallo refused to give direction to actors, so Cage had to direct some scenes himself.
Yeah,
did you have any more on that?
Jon Lovitz was saying that he was personally having a bad time. His father died on Christmas. And they had been shooting at night in the dark while the temperature was about like 25 degrees below for about 6 weeks.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, everybody was
they're shooting in actual winter and there's still 75,000 pounds of fake snow? It's Canada!
Yeah. I want realism!
Jesus Christ.
I have this great quote. I've got a couple great quotes from him.
Yeah, lay it on me, man.
But he says, quote, "Well, I feel like I'm very fortunate to be in movies at all, but I called it trapped in shit." I love Dana, and Nicolas Cage was great, and we became friends, but the director just wasn't there. He wasn't directing. But the director would say, just do whatever you want. He was bragging about what a great director he was before he hired us. I'm as good as Rob Reiner and Martin Scorsese. This is George Gallo.
Fuck?
I said,
29th Street, by the way, is about goomba'd up, like mobster type, Italian American New York types, and it's shot in like in the South. Now,
have you heard of Socrates, Plato, morons?
Pretty much. So this is like the beautiful part. He says, don't you think you should let other people say that? we never even got to read the script. He'd go, well, let's rehearse this. I'd go, oh, good, we get to rehearse. And he'd start screaming at me, do whatever you want. And I go, saying do whatever you want is not direction.
It's not. What the fuck?
Well, I mean, technically it is now. I mean, that's what Paul Feig did with the new Ghostbusters and the last Will Ferrell movie that bombed.
See, that doesn't fucking work. You have to have a goddamn vision.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? Robert Altman shit. People think like, oh, Robert Altman, he just lets them do whatever they want. It's like, no, they do that during rehearsals. The improvisation occurs during rehearsals. They work it into a script. This is how Goodfellas was made. It's like they work with the material, they see where the flaws are, and the actors fix it. That's how that shit is. You don't just point a camera and let shit happen. That's how you make a goddamn Norman Mailer movie. Which is garbage.
In a comedy, you can have scenes with improv, but like he was just
as long as you have alternate takes. But you have to, you know, like how Kubrick directed George C. Scott, right? Because George C. Scott was uber serious. Is like, now just for fun, let's do a goof take, and he'd only use the goof takes. Yeah, and that's how he did it. He outwitted him.
Well,
can we also talk about? Go ahead.
Sorry. During the scene where they were taking the trash bags out of the trunk of the car and changing clothes, Nic Cage asked Gallo what he wanted for the scene, and Gallo replied with, "Do whatever you want."
He was his only fucking direction for the whole thing. It's like, it's not about what we want. You're the goddamn director.
And apparently, like, Cage got pissed off and he replied with no and ended up directing the scene himself. And in these scenes, you can't improvise them. And like Jon Lovitz was saying, quote, you have to shoot a master, then you shoot coverage. You have to match everything. You have to plan it out. It's absurd.
Yeah, no, but based on what I've heard about this one, it's amazing that 29th Street even got made. But
I am not even surprised.
Well, my final
I was going to say, we
is-
should really talk about this movie and how this whole town is basically Incestville because everyone seems to have a mentally handicapped
okay,
brother.
no, there's Clovis. There's the sheriff's son, who's also his deputy, who rides a horse named Merlin, who they nearly run down on their way into town. For you people who are never going to watch it and should never fucking watch it. They nearly run down the horse. Clovis falls off the horse. He's all cross-eyed. He's like, and Cage says, "Is he mentally retarded?" And Jon Lovitz says, "Yes."
Yeah.
It's 1994. They still said retarded.
Yeah.
And then
Some
almost
kind of
immediately
retard.
afterwards in the bank, when Dana Carvey's going all klepto on the Christmas tree, Cage says, "Excuse my brother, he's mentally retarded." So they just threw this around back then.
Mentally retarded.
Yeah, mentally. By the way, Cage has this kind of Brooklyn sort of an accent that comes and goes.
So, well, he also gets that Peter Lowe accent back in the beginning too, where he says,
What are you, 2 years old?
You want to see a puppet show?
You want to see a
And
puppet
then he
show?
gets-
Get some balloons? You guys can't leave the state, so call me Dad.
Call me Dad. So settle in.
So, fuck, goddamn motherfucker. Okay, so on a lighter note, after Cage picks up Dana Carvey and Jon Lovitz, like after they're out on parole, they almost immediately start robbing the till at the store, and so they run out the back after the cops are called. Cage throws Jon Lovitz and Dana Carvey up against the wall, and the cop comes up. Cage flashes his wallet and says, "I'm Sergeant Dickman, Queens, off duty. Who the hell are you?" And the guy says, "Officer Birdie, sir." It's like, "I got the mirror on my ass. Bring the car around and get me so we can take away this scum." Birdie!
I just have one more thing to say
Do
about
it.
what a douchebag Gallo was.
Please do.
Gallo is a douchebag. Fuck Gallo. Wherever you are, we hate you. I have been drinking.
Yeah, come at us, motherfucker.
Motherfucker.
Jon Lovitz said, quote, "I don't care. I'll tell everybody." He wouldn't even come out of his tent. It was freezing cold. We're out there shooting this scene and there's a problem on the set and he's 50 yards away in his tent. We go, "George, what do we do? There's a problem." And he goes, "I'm looking at fucking Jupiter." It was ridiculous.
Whatever you want. Just whatever you want. So
I'm looking at fucking Jupiter.
I'd like to. So this movie, the mess that it is, it represents that old Hollywood trope, right? Where people from the big city go to a small town and are charmed by it, and they're like, "Oh, wait, that's right. My big city way of life is bankrupt. In the small town, that's the real way. Let's go back to a picture postcard of New England." Like in fucking Valley of the Dolls. And let's look at churches covered in snow and like trees that turn orange in the fucking autumn time. You know, and it's all this fucking, it's this bullshit idea that the small town morality is superior. And what it really is fucking, it's old school codified racism. For the idea that the big city, the real problem they have with the big cities is that big cities are multicultural. You're going to meet Jewish people. You're going to meet Italian people. You're going to meet Irish people. You're going to see people wearing fezzes and turbans. You know, there's people from all over because there's just more fucking people. And guess what, fucking people? It's better when there's more people because your shit isn't an inbred fucking incestful Texas Chainsaw Massacre shit-town outhouse. Oh, a covered bridge. It's so fucking lovely. Well, guess what, motherfucker? You're all related, you goddamn Dutch bastards.
Speaking of, that's two ways I could have seen this being better. I honestly thought this was going to be like a From Dusk Till Dawn thing where it's all about them setting up for a bank robbery and then it turns suddenly into Gremlins. Or it would have been even funnier if this whole peaceful town of wonderful, loving, sweet, honest people turned out to be raging cannibal psychopaths.
Yeah, anything.
And they had to fight their way out of the town.
This movie, Hot Fuzz. Now, this movie reminded me of three movies specifically, though, that did themes in it better. The first one's In Bruges. with Colin Farrell.
Yes.
Because it's like, because we got similar themes here. He's a criminal, right? He's a British gangster, Irish gangster, whatever. Like he shoots a kid, so they take him to what they think is this magic town and show him a good time before they blow him away. And except the twist is that Colin Farrell hates Bruges. It's a tourist shithole and he doesn't give a fuck. It's like, there's a bunch of windy stairs and you're a bunch of fucking elephants. Then you got the ref.
It's supposed to be kind of like a purgatory.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no. And then you got the ref with Dennis Leary, which I love, which I keep talking about.
It's so much better.
Because you're showing this New England town, which is called Old Baybrook, by the way. Modeled on Old Saybrook, maybe a little bit. That's where my grandparents live.
Oh.
Yeah, no, and it's like, yeah, you're charming New England town. It's actually kind of a shithole. And lastly is the wrong guy. With what's his name from Kids in the Hall. The reason I bring up the wrong guy, because that one's largely like a Man on the Run kind of Hitchcock movie parody, I'm not a murderer. I'm an alleged murderer. There's a difference. So in that one, he winds up going to a small town and working at a bank. And the twist there is that they're playing on the Depression era movie trope where there were always sweet, innocent farmers harassed by evil bankers. And in that one, there's a sweet, innocent banker harassed by an evil farmer.
Oh, it's Dave Foley.
Yeah, Dave Foley, right. I have been drinking, so names aren't going to come as readily. I'm having Cuervo. Fuck the world. So the thing with Donald Moffat's character playing Clifford Anderson is that in this he's the sweet, innocent banker, right? Except they're not reversing any trope. They're just doing it straight up. So it's like, wait a minute. Yeah. So like, is this like an unconscious, like, yay capitalist kind of a thing? You're going to ruin the Winterfest. So. It's like, what?
This is going to ruin the town.
This is going to ruin the town.
Well,
and there are some
like
things I'm just becoming aware of.
That element was just a ripoff of It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah. It's like, what'd you do with that money, you silly, stupid old man?
Yeah.
One of us is going to jail and it's not going to be me.
That money's basically ours.
It's like, so, you went to a town with one fucking bank? Fuck you, town.
One horse town.
I mean, okay, the real Paradise, Pennsylvania.
Hey, it actually was a one horse town.
It was, yeah. Hey. Merwin the horse who keeps showing up. I would feel really bad if it froze a horse. I feel so bad for Jon Lovitz and Dana Carvey just trying so hard, and they just got,
This was just horribly miscast.
Just fucking, well, do you think so? I mean, I know we're not at Face Off yet, but do you really?
No, I think that, like, I honestly think.
Well, I don't think the movie should have happened at all. But if it did happen,
if it had a better director, it could have been something.
Well, no, I was actually thinking partway through it. Speaking of recasting, is that if Danny DeVito had directed it. It really could have been something, because like I feel like the first like half hour or so would have been virtually unchanged, and then the rest of it would have played out much better without any actual visible smarm. Like throw Mama from the train.
Yeah,
like there's emotive elements in there, but there's no smarm. Like that's
honestly,
So just gonna say that's a really good movie, man.
Well, yeah, I was just saying the thing that kept coming back to me was Tropic Thunder. Because a lot of people are like, oh, we love that Robert De Niro's in this. We like Jack Black playing his Eddie Murphy type style character.
They only laugh at my
But everyone else was like, they didn't give a shit about Ben Stiller. Because like, well, God, he's not really an action hero type. But it still was a good casting because he knew what to do with the people he had, and he knew what to do with the material.
There was that.
And I kind of think this is the same.
There was that MTV Awards thing where he did the thing where he's Tom Cruise's stunt double, and he names himself Tom Cruise.
Oh yeah,
and they have John Woo in there, and they're like, okay, other Tom. And there's a great bit at the end where he matches Tom Cruise's laugh with Tom Cruise just perfectly. It's like, just like, it was cool as shit,
Oh yeah.
Well, this week I watched Don't Look Now, and
oh my God, you watched a good movie.
Watched that. Yeah,
I know.
I really love Donald Sutherland.
And his ass.
Yes, there's a lot of Sutba in that, and you almost see his
Oh, yeah, you got the fucking scene in that one. Yeah.
Oh, my God, the fucking scene.
Yeah. All right.
That scene came up, and I was like,
dude, no, back in the 70s, dude, you'd see like Donald Sutherland cock, like every movie, you'd be watching fucking, I don't know. Yep. Donald Sutherland cock.
Don't look now, check
me
it out,
and Linda
kids.
are kind of connected in a Corsican Brothers kind of way, because when you were watching that, I was watching with Lucille the Kentucky Fried Movie, which also had Donald Sutherland in it, and he got face planted into a kid.
Well, this one he did
as
a
a
face plant,
Pisces,
but it was
I never
something
know what
else.
to expect. I fucking love the
He
Erwin
face
and
planted into a cake. You know what I'm saying?
Catholic high school girls in trouble. The only other thing I watched this week was some of the Adventures of Robin Hood TV series with Richard Green, who went on to be Nayland Smith in the Jesus Franco Fu Manchu movies. Because in the 60s, Christopher Lee did 5 movies where he played Fu Manchu, because you could still do that back then. And
Fu Manchu.
He did fine, whatever. I mean, like, it's not,
He's a treasure.
it's not acceptable anymore, but, the first 2 movies are by Don Sharp, and they're pretty entertaining. The third one is pretty meh. And the last 2 are by Jesus Franco, and Jesus Franco really doesn't like to plan shooting things. He just sort of likes to have handheld cameras and zip zooms and, like, some blood and maybe some tits. That's Jesus Franco. That's as far as he plans. Some people are, like, in a big cult following for him, but he really is pretty much the worst director ever. Except, of course, for George Gallo.
Yeah.
Gallo.
So back to Trapped in Paradise, though. I'd like to point out that this movie has a couple of times where there are jokes, like they were scripted jokes, and then the movie just sort of undoes them.
Yeah,
I know. Like they're the FBI guys are following the car, right? Like fucking. You remember that bit? Yeah. The license number ends in DUH, and they're reading it off, and they're being all stiff, and then they all go, "Duh!" It's like, yeah, that was the joke. We don't need to explain, fuckface. Or the bit at the end where they're in the Greyhound bus and the mother's like, "When are you two gonna get married?" And it's like, "Well, we're not attracted to each other." And everybody laughs. It's like, you're not supposed to laugh at your own joke, you goddamn bastards. You're doing a comedy.
Not only that, but it goes on for a long time.
It's like
where they're still laughing.
It should have been like Dana Carvey just like sort of says it off the cuff, like he doesn't get it, and then fishes out the payday because they're doing the product placement at the end.
Right.
It should have just been like he just says it like they're not thinking about it, because it's not supposed to be a joke to the characters. The audience is supposed to laugh. No. The characters are supposed to be confused and befuddled. Also, there's a 3-legged dog.
Yeah. Also, something that would have been fixed with direction.
Fucking anything. God damn it. It's like, here's the thing. Comedy does not just happen organically. You cannot just improvise an entire movie and have it be funny. I'm sorry. You might have fun, but the audience will not. Comedy involves timing, careful timing and planning. Not just any old shit is funny. Not just pratfalls are funny. You gotta be Billy fucking Wilder. It's a goddamn science.
Well, and I guess that's why Gallo ended up blaming them for it tanking, because
I told them to do whatever they wanted.
Put some comedians in a movie and they're just going to make it funny as hell.
Well, that's the thing. Is like Cage is funny, but he's not strictly a comedy actor. Like Dana Carvey and Jon Lovitz are. No. But it's like it's like they're only as good as the whole movie is going to be.
Exactly.
And while there are some good moments and there's some good scenes, it's like you got to make a whole, man. It's like, and they did not fix it with editing, by the way.
Well, that's something I was reminded of. Red Letter Media had coined the phrase was a nomedy, where it's like it's supposed to be a comedy. They tell a joke, but the joke is just killed on delivery. They take everything out of it because they're trying to tell you this is the joke, this is what you're supposed to laugh at. And you shouldn't, when you're watching a comedy in the first place, like with this, you shouldn't be able to say, okay, I know where this is going to go, because they're so obviously setting this up because of how stupid it is. But even then, as you realize, even as stupid as your prediction could have been, it would have been so much better than what they did and what happened.
Yeah.
Because even in the end, I honestly thought they were going to end up... Because I forgot about seeing this film, too, when we saw it as well. And I can't remember if we saw it in the theater with our parents or if we rented it.
This is my first time myself.
Yeah, but it's like when they're going after them and the 2 guys that escaped prison who told everyone about the bank being robbed... I honestly thought they were going to pin it all on those 2.
Yeah, I mean,
wouldn't that
that's
have
how
made
it was going to
sense?
end out in the end.
Or pin it on the idiot
so
deputies. It's like, you have these other groups.
It would have made so much more sense versus the FBI knowing that everyone's covering for them and then deciding the FBI just wags a finger at you and goes, "We know you're guilty."
Yeah, they just went with the worst possible ending. This is actually how Vittorio De Sica's After the Fox played out, which is another movie that just shits all over itself.
Yeah, this is how Miller's Crossing ended, by the way, everyone.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought that up because we didn't mention that before. So they got this letter. Jon Lovitz has this letter from their former cellmate guy or whatever the fuck, some guy from jail.
Yeah.
And they're talking he's this murderer in prison who tells everybody about this bank that's so easy to rob. It's like he's murdered more people than Forest Lawn, or buried more people than Forest Lawn. And then immediately after the robbery, it's immediately through the jungle, through the prison pipeline somehow, through the grapevine somehow. He immediately finds out that the bank has been robbed. He flips the table because they're all there in the mess hall.
Yes.
They break out of jail in a scene that just isn't there. Kidnap their mother, the Furpo brothers' mother. And then they start driving to Paradise, Pennsylvania, and their mother, they put her in the trunk and gag her. Then there's a part where Dana Carvey reveals to Cage when they're in this diner that Jon Lovitz set the whole thing up and that Nicolas Cage was never wanted by the law. It was all to get them to this town to rob this bank. So Cage flips that table over and he goes out to the truck stop and he gets a ride with the two guys who just escaped from jail because he doesn't know who they are because he wasn't in jail.
Right.
Then they're driving along and he hears the knocking sound in the trunk that he does not know is his mother because she's gagged. And he says, "I love people, you know. Oh, isn't life great?" and he's like, you fall in love with a girl named Sarah? Huh? My daughter's named Sarah, and there's only one Sarah in the whole world. Do you have a picture of her? Yeah. It's like, no, the only picture I have in my wallet is of my mother. And the guy in the back's like, really? I have a picture in my wallet of my mother too. And Cage is like, well, let's compare. Compare
and
mothers?
That's another thing. So he's in love with this woman who he's had.
He exchanged 2 lines with her.
Yeah.
Yep.
And like in that scene where he tries to kiss her and she says, "What are you doing?" I was thinking like that's exactly what I was fucking
Amic's
wondering.
only definition is that she tells Dana Carvey to put back the pens.
Yeah.
Yes. And she lives with the bank president, Clifford Anderson. She's their boarder, and she lives upstairs, so they call her Sarah upstairs. Which, I'm sorry, but what the fuck?
Well, and in that scene when he tries to kiss her, she says the second thing I thought of, like, you don't know me. It's like, yeah,
you don't know me.
It's not like he's like 17 years old and they're at a party or something. Like, what the fuck? Like, you don't know who the fuck that is. You've had maybe
they should have.
You don't know where he's been.
Maybe they should have recast her as a 1990s Halle Berry. You don't like it, Woo? You know, I had to do that. I had to. No, you didn't. Or Queen Latifah. They could have made this a Queen Latifah movie.
Oh my god.
Yeah, like Last Holiday.
My queen.
I cannot feel my face right now. I'm a real lightweight.
Hey, it's all right.
Everything.
All right, guys.
Fuck, everything's all right now. Fuck this movie.
I'm all right.
No need to worry about me.
So,
fuck Messina. I love Loggins.
Did you guys have any other thoughts about the movie?
Oh, I'd like to point out, by the way, that like many of our Granny trilogy, Sunshine trilogy, Cage movies, this movie also has a Rat Pack theme song over the end credits.
Yeah,
you're nobody till somebody loves you.
And the movie also during the beginning showed you, like the old time musicals used to, everything that's going to happen in the film, things that are in the film, where you have the three of them in the horse-pulled sleigh, you have the train going by.
You get the CGI title where they try to make it look like it's on the window glass.
Yeah. Otherwise, the less said about this movie, the better.
It's from 20th Century Fox, who have done some of the best and some of the worst movies ever made.
Well, I kind of laughed involuntarily during the middle of this, and Lucille was like, "What is it? What did I miss?" And it's like, that was no joke. I just started laughing because I honestly thought the woman playing Sarah was Phoebe Cates, and I thought they were totally going to go into how this is why she had such a bad Christmas experience in Gremlins.
We should have watched Date with an Angel instead of this. You're so right, Donnie.
No, it's Machinamic from who plays Shelley in Twin Peaks.
Did any of you see the movie Christmas in Connecticut with Barbara Stanwyck?
Yes.
You did? I haven't seen it. How was that?
I don't know.
It was a thing.
It depends on your level of drunkenness.
Okay, so I'm fairly drunk right now. Should I watch it?
Then watch it. We should probably get back to the movie.
I haven't. I'm gonna say right now for fans at home, I haven't been drinking for most of the podcast since early on, since I figured I had things to do later on. But I wound up going out earlier, so I'm just gonna get crunk.
Oh yeah.
No,
Let's do
but
this thing.
honestly, for the first, I know we've said this before, but like for about the first 20, 30 minutes of this movie, I couldn't understand all the hate for it. And then there's the part where after, so they rob the bank. And it's a pretty funny scene because the Anderson's wife, the bank president's wife, is in there, but the bank president is at lunch across the street.
I'm gonna get you.
Yeah. So Cage and he's like, well, when's he gonna be back? And the wife's like, well, 45 minutes. And Jon Lovitz's like, hey, 45 minutes, not bad. And Cage is like, you need a lobotomy. So Cage goes across the street with Dana Carvey, and he can't get through the restaurant. The restaurant's crowded, so he says, "This is a robbery." And the restaurant owner's like, starts going towards the till, and Cage is like, "Where are you going?" And she says, "It's a robbery. I'm going to go get the money out of the register." He's like, "I'm robbing the bank." And she's like, "Oh, but the bank's across the street." And he's like, "I know that. I'm going to get the bank president." And the president from Clear and Present Danger there, Moffat, stands up. It's like, "Oh, okay, that's me," you know. And then he takes all the diners hostage across the street to the bank. Meanwhile, Jon Lovitz is having him do yoga and sing a song. It's like, "Oh, you can't go to heaven if you don't hold still, but if you move, you're gonna get killed." Now, don't you feel better? You know, it's tolerably funny. At least it's what you expect, right?
And
it's
apparently,
just not at many laughs.
Yeah, and then for some reason, even though this bank has a sleeping security guard and a security camera that's not plugged in, there's a fucking laser motion detector in an open vault while the bank is open, which does not make any fucking sense. But I work at an alarm monitoring center for a living, so and that has given me some insight into the fact that movies do not know how alarm systems work.
No.
Yeah, so that's bullshit, but it's fine. It's a movie. Movies are bullshit. It's fine. They're just entertainment. And
well, I read somewhere that while they were so miserable, like recording in the cold and the fucking dark, that they would come up with songs, and I really wish that I could hear some of those songs.
You know, I bet there's a whole, but there's some great outtakes out there or something. You know, like.
Well, here's a good question for you all because it does link two other Cage films together. What bank robbery scene was better, this one or Raising Arizona?
Yeah, that was a lot better.
I mean, honestly,
which is it, son? Like freeze or get on the floor. If I drop, I'll be in motion.
See, they even tried doing that, and it could have been funny too. With who has the keys? Raise your hand.
Yeah, right? Yeah. No. And in Raising Arizona, also Cage's accent is more consistent. His character makes sense.
Oh
right.
yeah.
We keep running into this, and I guess it's a thing in storytelling in general. Like, it's a thing that I long neglected, I'll be honest, like, because I attempt writing as well. And, you know, and I'm not claiming to be good or anything. But, like I always undersold the concept of thematics, you know, like having something consistent throughout the story to sort of tie it together. Some movies overdo it, like goddamn After Earth. It's like, take a knee, stand me up. You know, it's like, because that movie's a piece of shit. But then you see movies like Trapped in Paradise where things are introduced and you just expect them to be followed through on, and they just are not. Yeah. It's like one of the best scenes in the movie is early on where Cage goes to confession. He says it's been 2 weeks from last confession, and the priest is like, "Are you Furpo? It's been 5 years. What the fuck are you talking about?" And the priest is doing the crossword, and he does the reveal about his brothers. You know, it's pure exposition, but it's a cute scene. You know, and Cage mentions the wallet and karma. And it just doesn't go anywhere. Yeah. It's like, are we supposed to put this together on our own? You're supposed to follow up. There's supposed to be symbolism. There's supposed to be imagery. Even if it's...
Oh, the whole movie is symbolism because you're trapped for an hour and 50 minutes while you're watching this movie.
So I did not know what Trapped in Paradise was when you said it coming up. I remembered a movie about some assholes going to a resort in the tropics. I didn't remember that there was a movie about people going to a snowy village in Pennsylvania. You know, like I didn't know this movie existed, basically. Even though I think I'd seen the DVD cover before. By the way, this thing is like the worst movie poster ever. It's like Cage, Lovitz, and Dana Carvey wearing their snow outfits in a snow globe. Yeah. It's the laziest fucking thing. It looks like a straight-to-video comedy from like 2000. Yeah.
Oh, I agree.
Well, it's kind of getting into Face Off, but I think that We're No Angels did it so much better.
No, What did I have? Nothing. Yeah, with Spicoli, you know, with the did I tell you guys that I had a dream about Sean Penn after
on my
did
you talk about George Bush?
After my YouTube on my first after I did my first drawing video, I had a dream that we all hung out with Sean Penn and we were old pals of his, and that he had a drawing video, and I was loath to post it because I was afraid that there was some sort of copyright tie up with it.
Do you think he would like give us the skinny on Madonna?
Do we need it?
In the 80s, she was so fucking awesome.
And now she's on Eurovision, and no one wanted her there.
Love me.
So, do you guys feel ready for Face Off?
Oh, Jesus!
I have been
Christ.
ready since I saw this movie.
Okay, well, the movie shouldn't have happened, but if we're gonna cast it, Donnie, go for it, nail it.
All right, I'm gonna fucking nail this thing to a cross, and everyone's gonna love it.
Like your mother.
Okay, so I would recast the director first and foremost with Leonard Nimoy.
Oh yeah,
and in the part of Nic Cage, I would put Tom Selleck.
Makes sense.
And in the part of, let's say, Dana Carvey, we would put Steve Guttenberg.
Wait a minute.
And in the part of Jon Lovitz, we would have Ted Danson.
All right!
It would be called Three Men Trapped in Paradise.
And a little paradise.
I was halfway thinking that it almost would have been it would have at least been a more coherent movie if Cage's two brothers had been more in the background and the romance had actually been a focus. It would at least justify the existence of a romance, by the way.
Well, even then, it still would have been better, too, if you just had Cage as the voice of reason, and those two dipshits, who were obviously dipshits and stealing constantly, being who he had to wrangle in, instead of suddenly becoming the fucking ringleader and then having a conscience after everything.
Before writing Midnight Run, George Gallo also wrote Brian De Palma's Wise Guys with Danny DeVito and fucking Joe Piscopo, which I have never seen, but I get the impression nobody else has seen it either.
Yeah.
You know, you're right. If they would have gotten rid of the romance altogether, it would have been a much
better
movie.
Well, frankly, if it just been about him and his brothers, you know, like...
Well, and you wouldn't have to explain why the inmate who's he's talking about the perfect bank to rob. You wouldn't have to explain why it just so happens to be the employer of his daughter.
I'm glad you brought that up. So she mentioned like loving the people in the town and feeling bad about being duplicitous. Right. Now, was that just about her going there under a fake last name and lying about being the daughter of a felon? Or was she actually placed there as some kind of setup for a future robbery on his part? Like, was he planning to rob that bank? Like, it's never spelled out. There's a lot missing.
Yeah.
There's the part at the end where all the characters are confronted with one another, where the crooked deputy who runs the store and the differently abled son of the sheriff, have got the three brothers kidnapped, the Furpo brothers kidnapped, and then they bring them to the house of the bank president, where the two guys who've escaped from jail had their mother tied up, and it's like I'm being held hostage on the night when Jesus was born.
Yeah.
The mother's a laugh riot. She's great.
Yeah.
She is, yeah.
And Jon Lovitz swears on his mother's grave while they have a gun to his mother's head.
Don't say I was pointing
Don't
gun
say
at me.
that!
I just kind of feel this falls into something that, God damn, Groucho Marx said. With how he loved doing their movies versus doing what they'd done in vaudeville, but he hated Hollywood for it because they always had to interject a love story into it. And he's like, why can't you just do comedy? Like, because nobody can sit through a whole comedy. You have to have a love interest. You have to have a musical dance thing. Yeah, this is
why movies in the 30s and 40s, as well as fondly as we may look back on some of them, on the whole, they were bullshit. I saw a fucking horror movie. This was supposed to be a blood-curdling fucking horror movie from 1940. Don't remember what it was called. It doesn't matter. It's free on YouTube.
Birth of a Nation?
Yeah, funniest movie ever. Movie from the 40s, and it still has some of those fucking, like, this three-bitch, like, white bitch vocal group being like, Boogie Woogie Peekaboo from Company B. It's like, fuck off! Where are the Supremes? Get off my stage.
Where's the tits?
Well, and that's why Tina Fey, when she was doing 30 Rock, she established that her character didn't like sex, wasn't comfortable with it, and was
here's
just
the
kind
thing:
of a
is like
gross
when you
person.
are doing a comedy, you either actually establish the dramatic bits and let it be a source for humor later on, or you just have the whole thing tongue in cheek and have the romance itself be humor, which this doesn't do.
Yeah.
Well,
It's like you need to either build your drama and have comedy come organically from that, or you really actually need to be goofy and not just be a chicken shit.
Yeah. And speaking of tongues in cheek, Adrian, what is your face off?
Oh my fucking god, burn it all. Okay, I think I had one a moment ago. I have been drinking. I'm gonna reestablish that. I can't help but think that
Richard
this
Bernhardt?
actually might have been a pretty good Steve Martin Goldie Hawn movie.
That's true.
You know, because I feel like they like you know, like Shop Girl. You know, you got this kind of New Hampshire theme going on there, Vermont.
Yeah.
Okay, people in New Hampshire and Vermont, like I'm fucking 3,000 miles from you. I get you all confused. Vermont's the one that's closer to Canada. Okay, yeah. And New Hampshire's the live free or die one. So you know, something like that. Maybe get Charles Grodin in there someplace. You know, like something.
Lord knows he isn't doing
something
anything.
funny. You know, well, in 1994 you could still get him. You know.
Yeah.
You know. But 1994, by the way, one of the other movies that was further down at the box office was Pulp Fiction in like its 10th week. So this is why nobody watched this fucking movie. There were so many fucking options.
Get the gimp.
It's like, although I don't know why anybody paid to see Star Trek Generations. You know,
I feel bad if they did.
Yeah, apparently a lot of people did though. It made money enough for there to be sequels.
If I were to cast the movie back in 1994, I would replace Lovitz and Carvey with Martin Lawrence and Will Smith because they fucking did it. They already did it. They did an amazing job of it.
The only thing I liked Will Smith in was 6 Degrees of Separation with Donald Sutherland.
Oh, so good. And Stalker Channing.
Legend of Bagger Vance, not so much.
But if I were to remake it, like today, I would, well, first of all, Gallo wouldn't be near the fucking story. Wouldn't be allowed near the set.
We agree, though, that the biggest recasting is still the director.
Yes.
Yeah.
Director / writer.
I mentioned Robert Altman.
If we were to recast.
Yeah, let's get Robert Rodriguez.
Robert Rodriguez. I wouldn't have to work hard.
Eli Roth.
No, that was one of my fucking thoughts. It's like small town in Pennsylvania. How did they not die? How did they not get murdered by a tin horn sheriff and wind up on a fucking meat hook? I'm sorry.
By the smallpox.
Pennsylvania might be right up near New York and all that shit, but really, it's like it might as well be Alabama.
Yeah, this could have been a prequel to the Crazies.
I've always wanted to go to Pennsylvania, but the reason I wanted to go to Pennsylvania was not for cute small towns and for cultural goodies. It was for the fact that there's Centralia, Pennsylvania, which has had a frickin' underground coal fire for like over 50 years. This is the town that Silent Hill was based on,
Phil.
and they got all those freaky steel towns, like in that movie. Oh Jesus! Like an Iron Maze with fucking Jeff Fahey.
Well, if I had to reboot it, I would. I decided that I'm going to go all Chris all the way. I'm going to have Chris Evans, Chris O'Dowd, and Chris Pratt.
No Chris Elliott?
If one of them,
yeah.
Well, if one of them can't do it, then of course you get Chris Elliott for the Nic Cage role.
Yeah,
and maybe some Chris Hemsworth. Fuck it. We're gonna marvel this shit
and
up.
the ghost of Chris Reeve.
Because why not?
And some nice.
Let's go Uncanny Valley.
Nice Chris
Just
lettuce.
CGI everyone.
Oh
Sure.
Dear God, I can't feel my feet neither.
So, were you able to find any wisdom other than take it slow and easy with the booze?
Well, if you believe yourself to be innocent, maybe confront the cops who have come out to see if there's a sniper on the roof, and just say, "Hey, am I wanted for anything?" And just sort of deal with it, rather than just assume that your compulsive liar brother is telling the truth. You know.
Yeah.
Also, when they're in quote unquote New Jersey at that gas station, Cage pretty much reveals that he doesn't believe Jon Lovitz, and yet he goes with it anyway.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever you see a sign that says "Free Penn, take one," it doesn't mean take all.
You know, I didn't know that
That's an
before, but
important
that's
lesson.
good knowledge.
It said take one.
It said, yeah, you should get no problem with me. No, because I wouldn't want there to be any problems. Well, there's starting to be.
And if you're going to have cookie ornaments on your tree, you better make them edible.
I think my favorite moment, though, from the whole movie is the part where Clovis falls off the horse, and the sheriff's like, "Sorry about my son, he's a little slow." And then Dana Carvey like points at him and winks. It's like, oh man, it's like a, yeah, they're bonding. This is great.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm surprised no one said clean up on aisle 3, but my favorite joke that got no laughs was when Jon Lovitz was talking about the yoga. He's like, yeah, I learned it in prison.
Yes!
It's really helpful when you got 10 guys surrounding you.
This was way back in the Cretaceous period, which as periods go, it was a mother. And I feel like my reptilian brother, I will rise above my problems, never to return.
I'd say that the wisdom I found was it's bad to rob a bank, but if you do, make sure to get to know the town, make friends with them all, and return the money.
And give the money to the church.
Now, what I don't understand is they opened the vault and the gate was closed, but there were big freaking gaps in the gate. Just shove the bag through it, dumbass!
Exactly.
End the movie! For the love of God, end the movie!
They could have just left the money in the bank.
They were already in the bank!
Yeah.
Yes.
There are multiple long in the snow car chases for some reason. And usually an action sequence is the thing that wakes you up because you're like, plot, character, I am bored, shoot somebody. And yet this movie, it shuts it right down for some reason. The action just shuts it right down.
Well, you have to get the hobbits to Isengard, and then from there get them to Mordor.
It's like,
you just can't simply walk into Mordor.
Oh, wait a minute. You can't just rock into Mordor. We gotta go and meet the giant spider. And Tolkien's like, I wasn't organized at all. Why is this regarded as a classic?
I was high.
There was
I was gonna make
Dick.
Trapped in Paradise, then I got high. It was gonna come out real nice, and then I got high.
God damn it.
If it gets shit on my critics, you'll know
learned,
why.
There's a lesson actually I learned the hard way in life, and that's that you can't choose your family, especially you can't choose your siblings.
You guys are lucky I'm not on here with my brother. It would be a shit show.
Speaking of siblings, we should mention something that we are going to eventually do, which was my sister said she was going to write a book about life with me called The Handbasket to Hell. And I was going to subsequently write another book called Weaving the Basket, My Life with My Sister.
I thought that book was going to be called The Killing Jar.
Somewhere Mark Hamill proves.
So, with that...
Movie bad! Hate movie! Linda, what movie are we suffering through next week? Why don't you just fucking illuminate it for us so we can shoot ourselves now?
Settle down, little one, and call me Dad.
Little Cindy Lou was
We're
in
gonna
bed
get
with her
to
cup
it.
and wants to know what's coming next, my children.
First of all, I would like to give two big shout outs to our friends over at Toys Were Us. Awesome podcast about the toys that we loved as kids, and also a lot of pop culture in there from our childhoods as well. And also Bottom of the Stream. I just found these guys.
Tell us about
and
Bottom of
they
the Stream.
Well,
There's
so
a stream
glad
at the
you
bottom of
asked,
the stream.
I actually found these guys on the Nic Cage Reddit. They just
At
covered
the Methadone Clinic?
They just covered Between Two Worlds, which we're gonna eventually have to get to. But
Is that a Nicolas Cage
cover...
movie, Linda?
Yes, indeed it is.
I can't feel my face.
Don't take your face off.
I'm better than good.
I'm me.
Bottom of the Stream is an awesome weekly podcast that covers the lesser known gems that are streaming, like on Netflix.
Oh shit!
And they're a really awesome pod. You got to give them a check out. In the meantime, I would say please listen, follow, rate, and review if you're still listening.
Like a man, talk like a man.
Damn it. Please listen, follow, rate, and review us. Can you edit Adrian out? So please rate and review Cage's Kiss on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Podcoin, YouTube. If you don't have a Podcoin account, be sure to use the code Cage's Kiss, all one word.
I might have had too much tequila.
To get points for us and for you. And, now, remember, you can find Cage's Kiss on Facebook and on Twitter at Cage's Kiss. You can visit our website at cageskiss.com. Please do.
Was there like a Podcoin or a Podbean or Pod People or what else was?
Oh yeah, where you have to use the code Cage's Fist, where you get 10%
Yeah,
off.
don't forget to mention The Boy Who Blew. You get an extra 5% off.
We're on your mom's bean, you know what I'm saying?
I'm actually bigger with my clothes off. Thank you.
Also, write to us at cageskiss@gmail.com. You sons of bitches, do you have any plugs?
Only in your mother. Yeah.
Just call me Dad.
Donnie, what the fuck do you have?
Yeah, Donnie, what the fuck?
Not
Besides
syphilis
VD.
or gonorrhea.
Good, the doctor came
I
back.
actually want a daughter, and I want to name her Gonorrhea. But
That's beautiful.
I've seen it.
That's my mother's name.
I am The Boy Who Blew on Pornhub or something. I'm also Unreal Goals on Twitter. And that's what the butt's for. Adrian?
Yeah, hey, everybody, I'm Adrian Smith. I learned that stealing and stuff is bullshit. But mostly you can find me as Leo the Fox on DeviantArt.com. If you don't know how to find that, that means you haven't been listening, so fuck you. You can find on there my recent stream of artworks. Some Nicolas Cage related art actually went up not too long ago. And I've got a continuing Penny Dreadful style story written in 19th century manner, which was vaguely based on my experiences with Mystery Science Theater 3000, believe it or not. Furthermore, I have a YouTube under A.A. Smith where you can find me bitching about books that you've never read and some of which you should never read. What the fuck?
Yeah.
You'll find me probably drinking and watching more
You gotta help me
movies,
finish the
hoping for
tequila,
more
drive
Sunday.
down here, and then drive back after you got a load on.
Big girl, don't cry.
They don't
I saw another horror movie. I took Donnie's advice and watched Resolution to get ready for The Endless.
What's that?
Really fucking good. Really
I
fucking
know,
good.
right?
Oh, goddamn.
Have
That's
you
such a good
guys
movie.
ever seen
It's-
Demon Warp with George Kennedy with the werewolves and aliens?
Yes.
Isn't that movie bitchin'?
It's fucking
It's
amazing.
fucking amazing. People at home, do not watch Trapped in Paradise. Watch Demon Warp.
Or Resolution.
Yeah.
Or The Muppet Christmas
Or
Carol.
The Great Muppet Gaper.
The Muppet Gaper Carol.
Linda, what movie are we doing next week?
Well, we will be back next week with Kiss of Death.
Oh,
boy.
it stars David Caruso.
Can't we just skip to Snake Eyes instead?
Nope.
I want to see Lieutenant Dan and Cage.
Is today gonna be
It's actually going to be
Shimmer
Kiss
Shaker
of Death.
Day?
And then
That DNA
Las
looks
Vegas.
human.
God damn it.
I'm here in the fields. I fight for my bills. I get right back into my living. Yeah.
I mean, maybe we'll see you guys next week. I don't know. I just don't know.
I
anymore.
only drink when I'm recording. Fuck off. I can quit anytime.
Why don't more people watch Jag anymore?
Hey, fuck Jag. I watched the Sub-Jag show. I watched James Brolin and Pensacola Wings of Gold.
Why don't you let me do the Kraken and you do the
I
Jacket?
got fucking ass of
when you're in
steel here.
prison.
You give me your bullshit thing, I'll watch it, motherfucker. Tell me about your bullshit thing on our website, and I'll fucking watch it and report back on the goddamn Cage Cast. How about that, motherfucker?
We'll watch the shit out of it.
You want a plug? I'll watch it. I got nothing better to do. I watched the 4-hour version of Dune. You can't hurt me.
Your name is a killing word.
Tell me of your homeworld, Uso.
Yeah, everyone walk without rhythm. Peace out.
Can we please let them go now?
No, I watched
They
the
can't
5-hour
go
version.
because they don't have the key.
Gonna get you. Gonna get you.
Oh, god damn it. Oh.
Cage. 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 Peach. I could eat a peach for hours. Please.